honors the credit First Nation and other Indigenous peoples who have lived here over time. We are grateful to share this land and treaty, who learn, work, and live in the community, and in our case, compete in sports. Husky fans, we'd like to take a moment for something that matters both on and off the court. At George Brown College, we know that mental health is just as important as physical health. Whether you're an athlete, a student, a staff member, or a fan, it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to ask for help. Being a Husky means showing strength, resilience, and support for one another. Checking in on a teammate, a classmate, or a friend can make a real difference. If you or someone you know is struggling, support is available. George Brown College offers mental health resources for students, and help is always within reach. Tonight, let's show what it truly means to be a part of the Husky family by looking out for each other on the court and beyond. We're stronger together. Let's go Huskies! We now ask that if you are able to please rise and take off your caps for the playing of our national anthem. Here is starting lineup for the Seneca State, as put together by head coach Matt Howell. Number 2, Ben Geary. Number 4, Jason Bennett. Number 9, Aiden Kilpatrick. Number 11, Sam Blakeson. Number 12, Alvin Maya Roll. Number 15, Jasper Kennedy. Number 22, Logan Gorski.
And we are back here at George Brown University for some men's volleyball between the Seneca Sting and George Brown Husky.
We got volleyball between Seneca and the George Brown Huskies. Seneca coming into Toronto with just one loss this season with a record of 10-1. And the George Brown Huskies have a record of 7-4.
That's right. Earlier in the women's game, the Seneca women's team actually undefeated right now. They swept George Brown 3-0 as we get ready for the men's match. It will be Seneca serve to start things off, as Ben Tieran will get things set here. And we are underway. And it's blocked by Seneca, and first points go to George Brown.
Huskies setting the tone right away, getting that first point.
George Brown serve. And they called it out of bounds. Point for Seneca. Seneca serve. And it is out of bounds. Point George Brown. Set the spike, and he cannot get to it.
Reaching
Another
for
point
it,
for
just
George
out of
Brown.
bounds.
Sam Blakeston cannot get to the ball, and Huskies are up 3-1 in the first set. Good save. The spike is in, the block. Seneca retrieves the ball, they give it over, and George Brown keeps it in, and Seneca gives it back to George Brown. George Brown has it, the spike, and George Brown off to a hot start. Nick Phobie with the spike gives George Brown the quick lead. Seneca calls their timeout early.
Strong words offered by Seneca's coach amid a timeout as Huskies have very quickly in this first set taken a 3-point lead over the Sting.
Coming out of the timeout, it is still George Brown will serve. Joseph Lee with the ball. He will serve it to Seneca. And he hits the net. It is point Seneca.
The Sting seem to
Seneca
have woken
sideline
up
is
now.
chirping right now. Jasper Kennedy with the serve for Seneca. And he hits the net. Back-to-back nets, point George Brown. Nick Phobie to serve it for George Brown. He gets it over the net. That was a high lob. The spike, the block, and it is point Seneca. George Brown touched the ball, went out of bounds. Seneca's got the point. The serve. And recovered. Set it up, the spike, and it is blocked.
Great block there in front from the Sting. They have now come to within 1.
What a block, yeah.
And their bench is ecstatic.
Buffy Congolo with the block for Seneca. They get a point back, and they serve the ball. And they hit the net. That is their second net already. It is 6-4 George Brown early.
This matchup, unlike we've seen before between the two women's teams, seemed to be a little more evenly matched.
It does. The women's. Oh, and it goes off. It goes off the hands of Kilpatrick. And that'll be another point for the Huskies. Serve, nice save by George Brown. Here with the spike, and it is George Brown point. It is George Brown point. They are up 8-4. Tyan Suzuki to serve. Set, the spike. Nice recovery by George Brown. And another point for George Brown.
Just missing on the block there in front was number 9 for the Sting.
George Brown on a
Aiden
roll right
Kilpatrick.
now, up 9-4 as they serve it again. The spike.
Oh,
and
there
Seneca
we go.
gets a point back.
Bang!
We're going to serve it now. Sam Blakeston to serve for Seneca. He goes high. And they get one back. Can they get it over the net? No! They cannot get it over the net. And that is point Seneca. It is 9-6.
It was a great effort there by George Brown to return that ball as it was going out near that corner. But Seneca prevailing this time around, cutting the deficit to 3.
Serve. And it hits the ceiling. George
Right
Brown hit
off
the ball
the
up to the ceiling. That's point Seneca. They're clawing their way back. The serve.
Seneca looking to keep it going here.
The spike. Oh, he doesn't spike. He just sends it over the net. Seneca trying to get the ball. Do they get it over the net? They do, but George Brown gets it back. The spike, the block. Seneca recovers. The spike, and that's a point Seneca. Big point for Seneca to get back in the game. As George Brown's 5-point lead is dwindling.
Great comeback effort right now by Seneca, coming to within 1.
And nice block in front.
And just like that, we are tied at 9 apiece. Timeout is called.
Buffy Congolo with the block, with the elite block in front. And we are all tied up 9 apiece in the first set. And now George Brown taking timeout to gather. There you go. And we are back. Sam Blakeston to serve it for Seneca. And
an amazing effort going past his own bench to keep that in.
But Seneca give it right back to George Brown. Seneca with the ball. They spike it, blocked, and that's point George Brown.
Great defensive play by the Grizzlies.
Yaroslav Svidritsky with a great effort to keep it in and then keep his team in the set. George Brown gets the lead back, but they hit the net. They hit the net and give it right back to Seneca. Bofi Congolau with the serve for Seneca. And he gets it across. It's an ace. And Seneca take the lead. Congolau back with the serve. And it is out of bounds. George Brown gets the point back and the ball back.
That was a rocket right off the serve there.
Here come the Huskies. Tyrese Brooms with the serve. And it's a spike. George Brown recovers. The spike, the block, and it was out of bounds. Point George Brown. Husky serve once again. Seneca set it up with a spike, a block, and they get the point. It is a very tight game here, both teams trading scores.
The Sting are stinging. But the Grizzlies, or not even the Grizzlies, the Huskies.
Oh, and they get the
back.
point off the serve. Seneca takes the lead. The serve. George Brown sets it up. The spike. And it hits the net. Point George Brown. The spike there from Yaroslav Svidritsky. And Seneca blocks it into their own net. George Brown tie the game back up. Svidritsky with the spike. Seneca setting the ball up. The spike, the block, and they get it. Point George Brown. George Brown up by one. With the serve. Seneca setting it up again. And they tie it back up. This is a very back and forth game. Aiden Kilpatrick to serve for Seneca. And he hits the net.
Not a great look there.
Point George Brown as they hit the net. Joseph Lee to serve. And he hits the net. Two straight nets from both teams. And it is Seneca ball. George Brown. And George Brown setting the ball up. The spike. And George Brown ball.
Great effort to come back there. Part of the
George Brown take the lead back quick. Nick Phobie with the serve. And that is out of bounds on the serve. And we are tied once again, very back and forth here. The serve. George Brown setting it up, and it's a block. It's a block by Seneca, and they take the lead.
Good for Seneca to taking the lead back there. Seemed as though George Brown really had their number at the beginning of this set.
The spike from George Brown, and they get it. Game is tied back up. It's been very back and forth. Set George. Seneca has it. They block it. George Brown. Give it back to Seneca. The spike. George Brown keep the ball alive. The spike. Seneca keep the ball alive. They set it up. Oh, and that is another point for Seneca. As they lightly tap the ball over. It will be Sam Blakeson with the serve. And it's another point for Seneca. They take a 2-point lead. From what I can remember, this is the biggest lead anybody's had since the very beginning of the game. George Brown sets it up for the spike. And it goes out of bounds. George Brown's point. They try to tie it up. Back. Here's Seneca to set things up. Set the block. And that's it. Seneca regains the lead. And timeout. Timeout called by George Brown. They're going to try and regroup. Get something going while the game's still close.
Timeout called by both teams. Taking a break here. Visiting Seneca, 5 points away from taking the first set.
All right. All right. Teams are getting back into position. Seneca is currently in the lead 20-18. And here we go. Here we go. Mac Lario with the serve. And he gets it over barely. The spike from George Brown. Seneca gets it back over. George Brown sets it up. The spike. And then they get it. Joseph Lee gets the point for George Brown. They try to tie the game back up. And they give the point to Seneca. They regain their two-score lead.
Calls being made here. Whistle has been blown.
The refs are going to discuss this one. See what side they saw the ball land on. And they give the point to George Brown. The game is tied. Here we go. Seneca setting it up. The spike. It's out of bounds. George Brown takes the lead. Here's the serve from Tyrese Brooms. The spike. And that time Seneca can convert inbounds. We're tied again in this back and forth game. The serve. The spike. And I cannot tell if that was out of bounds or not. I think they're going to have another discussion.
Both teams arguing that call very
Seneca
eagerly.
is trying to lobby it for it to be in their favor. I don't know if they will get it, though. It was a very close call. And they're giving the point to George
and
Brown.
The point is going to go to George Brown.
Seneca thought they got it, but the refs disagree. And the players on the sideline are lobbying that they're still lobbying that it was theirs, but ref's word is final.
Their coach is getting into it as well, and we might even see this set extend past one team scoring 25 points.
And that one was out of bounds. Seneca gets their point back. We're tied once again.
Call is made there by the
server.
It catches the net on the way and it goes in. Great landing
what
there
a
for
play.
Seneca.
Tips the top of the net, gets it on the ground. Seneca take the lead.
Two points are stepping
setting
in the
it
way
up.
of Seneca for taking this first set.
Blocked. Oh, but George Brown keeps it. George Brown still have it. They hit it. That is out of bounds. That is Seneca is 1 point away from winning the first set. And here we go. Seneca trying to take the first set. But here George Brown setting it up. The spike, the tip.
Kill
George Brown is still in it.
Kilpatrick there with the diving effort. Just couldn't get there in time.
All right, here
And now the
comes
Huskies
George Brown
have come to
trying to
within
tie
one.
this game back up.
Seneca wants to win this set. They have to get a point here.
I agree. I think they're angry after that call that didn't go in their favor. And they
there
get the point to
They
Seneca.
get
That
one.
was out of bounds.
Seneca taking this first set very close by a score of 25-23.
A lot closer than the first set between the women's teams, where Seneca kind of blew out George Brown, but this one was a lot closer.
More evenly matched, I would say. Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'm Adrian Barbez alongside Simon the Shrimp Hirschberg. We're gonna be coming back with more in a moment.
Thank you so much for being part of the one.
Kind of works.
There you go. See?
On air it works.
I need to go see that guy. Yeah, the headphones. Yeah, we don't hear him. We're basically watching the game. Why that was unplugged. I was guessing, but I didn't want to mess with anything.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for the second set in this OCAA men's volleyball game between the George Brown Huskies and the Seneca Sting.
I'm Simon the Shrimp Hirschberg along with Adrian Barbez. And if you were not here for the first set, Seneca won 25-23. It was very back and forth. We're getting ready for set two here. Seneca trying to take a two-set lead.
We saw a pretty back and forth first set,
including a call that Seneca players thought should have gone their way. However, it didn't really matter in the end because they won. Trying to get another win.
won by a thread, matter of fact, because in order for a team to win a set, they got to score 25 and win by 2.
And here we go.
Seneca won very closely 25-23 in that previous set, and we'll just see what goes down in the second.
To serve. And it comes back to George Brown. They set it up, get it over the net, and that is their point. 1-0 George Brown.
And they take the first point for the second straight set here.
And here we go. The serve. And it hits the net. Seneca gets their point. We saw that a lot in the first game. Both teams hit the net a lot on their serves. Here's Ben Teering for Seneca to serve it. Gets it over. George Brown sets it up. And they get it.
Beautiful spike there. Just in front of the net, Joseph Lee, who's also going to be heading right behind the baseline for the Huskies, serving next.
The serve. Seneca setting it up. The spike. And it was out of bounds. George Brown gets the point.
We see Seneca now starting this second set, similar to how they started the first one, kind of losing control a little bit, and the Huskies running away with it a little bit, but the outcome of that first set, Seneca was able to pull it off. We'll see if the Huskies can continue their momentum.
And that was out of bounds. It'll be Seneca ball. The serve from Aiden Kilpatrick. George Brown setting it up. The spike. And that is out of bounds again. It is Seneca point. So far starting a lot similar to the first set. Very back and forth. And George Brown get at the point. They take the lead.
Powerful spike once again. So tough to handle in those situations when you just, they're able to get so much behind that ball.
It's a sport where the ball moves so fast, you got to react as fast as the ball. Seneca setting it up.
It was Nick Phobia with the serve. He rallies it back up.
And
I think they're calling that in favor of Seneca here.
I don't exactly know what happened. However, Seneca will be getting the point. I think they lobbed the ball too many times. The serve hits the net. I haven't been counting, but there have been a lot of hit nets already in this men's game. And here's Tyan Suzuki with the serve. The spike coming in, and he saved what probably would have been a George Brown point. He get it over the net. Setting it up. The spike. No, he taps it over, but a perfect
Beautiful
setup.
Spike there.
Perfect setup by Seneca. They tie the game right back up. That was Harish Yoganathan with the spike. George Brown setting up. Powerful serve. And I think they touched the ball too many times again. Point Seneca, they take the lead. George Brown setting it up. The spike. The block. But it goes out of bounds. That is George Brown point. They tie the game back up.
Great defensive effort there by Seneca, getting bodies in front of the netting, creating those blocks.
Serve. Seneca setting it up again. They go in. And it hits the net.
Oof.
Tough.
Very tough look. That up close.
And George Brown take the lead. Here comes the serve. Cannot hang on to the ball. It's an ace for Huskies. And it is 8-6 George Brown.
Starting to regain control of this game for sure.
There you go.
Looking to give Seneca their second loss of the season.
George Brown setting it up, going in for the spike, the block.
And it's the same two in that same spot near the
And
netting with the block.
they get it down. Point Seneca. Here comes Lucas Wang with the serve. Set up by Seneca. And they get the point. Ball came right towards us.
Camera came in clutch there, blocking the ball from hitting us.
Knowing my subpar reflexes, I would not have been able to get that. Anyways, Seneca hits the net.
Oh, you know I would have protected you, Simon. Don't
No,
worry.
you would not.
No, yes, I would. I would never let the shrimp get hurt.
Seneca setting the ball up. And it hits the net. Ooh. George Brown get a 2-point lead back. All right. Tyrese Brooms with the serve. Uh-oh.
It went off his shoulder there. Very interesting play in front of the netting.
I don't think it was a legal play, so.
Looked as though he was using his shoulder to kind of roll the ball backward towards his teammates.
But they
That's
gave
creative.
the point to George Brown.
It's creative play nonetheless. You got to respect the effort.
I guess, yeah. They're giving the point to George Brown, though. They're up by 3 now. Try to extend this lead and tie things up 1-1. And serve.
Didn't have a lot of velocity on
Spike.
that serve.
Oh, he just cannot get the ball.
Tyrese Brooms there, just not getting the ball in time. That was moving very quickly into the ground.
Yes, it was.
And Brooms will sub off for the Huskies.
Spike. Oh.
Wow, there's the ace.
That's a big point for Seneca as they try to get back in it. They were down early in the first set and came back, trying to do it again. The serve. And he does it again. George Brown cannot hang on to it. The game is tied at 11 apiece.
Went directly into the ceiling just above the crowd there. Very powerful serve. I wonder if Seneca could keep this thing going.
We'll see. Here's the serve.
That's
And it's saved by George Brown, the spike, and it is out of bounds. Seneca takes the lead.
just a little too far to the left there. And Seneca was going to continue to ride the hot hand here.
Spike. And it
Buffy Congolo
went
with
into the
serve.
ceiling but didn't touch anything. And another out of bounds. Seneca get another point. They're up 2. And George Brown calls timeout.
Again, still similar to the previous first set. You know, George Brown gaining momentum at first, scoring those points. And it's just around, I feel like it was around this time even in the last set where Seneca started to really regain their footing and take a lead on the Huskies.
Yeah. They're 10-1. Been playing like it. How about George Brown's been giving them a bit of a challenge today. And we're back. Seneca with the serve. Trying to take a bigger lead here. And that was on the line, and it was out of bounds.
Congolo just sent it too far forward there.
And here comes George Brown trying to tie the game right back up. And they hit the net. Oh, that's a
very tough look there for George Brown. As you mentioned, Simon, a lot of times balls hitting the net. The netting's been taking a beating this game, it feels like.
It has. It's it is a big net, but you'd think how high some of these players can jump, how tall some of these players are, they can always manage to get it over. And that is out of bounds.
Really just matters on what point of the ball they hit, really. Could be hard to control sometimes, especially when you got guys spiking it as hard as they can. We've seen it from both sides this match.
Yes, 15-12 for Seneca right now. It's their ball. They'll serve it. And that was out of bounds. It'll be George Brown ball. Here we go, the serve. Oh, but George Brown get it back. And it's George Brown point. A bit of a scare bit for Seneca. Two players almost ran into each other.
Well, it's worked out in their favor for Seneca before. Again, as I mentioned in the previous set, I believe it was that same spot near the netting where they've made some blocks and it's worked out in their favor to get points on the board, but this time kind of goes awry and it's out of bounds.
Yeah, out of bounds. Seneca regain their 2-point lead. The serve, trying to set it up. Seneca have the ball, the spike, and that was in bounds. Seneca ball.
They get the point as well. 3-point lead for Seneca.
Directly in front of me, it painted the corner. Perfectly placed.
Got to appreciate the satisfaction from seeing that.
Seneca setting up the ball again. And they get another point. They're up 18-14. So they try to take this 2-0 set lead, put George Brown on edge.
And just like I mentioned, Seneca once again regaining their footing, gaining a lead on George Brown.
Oh, nice block by Seneca to keep the ball alive. They tap it over, but George Brown recovers. The spike. And it is in bounds. George Brown point.
That was a bomb there. Very solid strike there.
Big Yaroslav Svidritsky, 6'8".
Ahmed Osman there was with the strike. Or sorry, it was, I believe.
Serve.
It was Trent.
Spike. And it went right off the hands of Joseph Lee into the ceiling. And Seneca get another point. They're up 19-15. There is timeout. George Brown again. They're down 4. This has been a little less back and forth than the last set, but still very, very close. But just like the last set, Seneca have the lead.
Four points up on George Brown. We saw a four-point lead from Seneca in the previous set as well. Sometimes with these timeouts, George Brown has been able to come out of these timeouts firing at all cylinders. And we'll just see how it'll fare out as we come out of timeouts here.
And the team's back on.
Scores at 19-15.
George Brown trying to come back. Seneca trying to get the stranglehold. Here comes the serve. And it went off the net. But it will be George Brown's point.
There was also some presence there on the part of the defense from Seneca trying to make that block. But they knocked it out of bounds there, and as a result, the Huskies get the point, and now they're just behind by 3.
Oh, what a spike.
There it is.
Seneca are 5 points away from
Buffy
winning.
Kongolo with the spike.
He's got a really strong arm. He's been doing it all night.
Very strong arm, standing at 6'5".
He's also been giving Seneca a lot of points off the serve. And set up by George Brown. And he saves what could be an out of bounds.
Beautiful effort there on the part of Seneca.
Back to George Brown. And it is George Brown ball. It was tipped off a Seneca player out of bounds.
Seneca just exhausted themselves there. They really had to run back and make those desperation plays in order to keep themselves in play and keep the ball in play for that matter.
Serve.
And George Brown takes advantage of it with an easy tip.
Up. George Brown get the ball back for the spike. Right back to Seneca. They tip it over and they keep it up. But it is out of bounds. George Brown puts the ball out of bounds. Seneca back up by 4. 21-17. Comes the serve. Hits the net.
Whoa.
Lucky break for George Brown.
It's a tough one to give up this deep into the set. Seneca's got 21 points. They got to get to 25, still winning by 2. You can't give that up.
No, you cannot. Serve.
Very light touch
and
on
that
serve.
Was inbounds. They give the point to Seneca. Once again, painting the corner. 3 away from going up 2-0.
Kongolo behind the baseline for Seneca, ready to serve it.
Set up by George Brown. The spike hits the net, but they get the ball back.
Call's being made, and a point is being awarded to Seneca, it looks like.
All right.
The sting.
Seneca now 2 points away from taking another set. Buffy Congalel, who's been really good at serving all night. Gonna do it again. And oh, spiked, kept in. Seneca have it. Nice block.
And it gets
But
out
it
of
goes
bounds.
out of bounds. George Brown player touched it last. Seneca 1 point away from taking set number 2 and going up 2-0.
Although we did see Suzuki there making a sprint for it. I think he was trying to keep that ball in play.
A good effort, but not enough.
1 point away, Seneca now.
Bench players trying to rally their team, but it hits the net.
Oh. Very crucial now how Seneca will return this serve from George Brown. Svidritsky now. Very tall frame on him as well, standing at 6'8".
Uh-oh. Oh, it hits the ceiling. That's George Brown point.
They're coming close.
Can they come back?
Would love to see it. Would love to see it.
After a very close first set, the second set has also not disappointed.
Svidritsky again will be trusted with the serve.
And he hits the
Oh.
net, and that is set number 2. Seneca win 25-20 and go up 2-0. They are 1 win away from the sweep and what would be a 6-0 overall sweep between both the women and the men team. As we get ready for set number 3 coming up next.
It's very interesting how we're facing the same result, you know, for both the men and women, but
This game's been a lot closer.
it's been a lot closer. It's been a lot more evenly matched, I would say. And, you know, going into it, you know, obviously Seneca, for both the men and women, they're the favored ones here because, you know, with the women, they're undefeated. They're now 12-0 after their match. And going into this one, the men's team for the Sting are 10-1, while the men's team for the Huskies are 7-4. The Sting would be favored for this one as well, but we've seen a lot of back and forth. We've seen a lot of momentum shifts.
Huskies have been making it tough, but Seneca just one small step ahead.
And we're back for the third set here.
Players coming back on. Seneca trying to finish this game off here, and George Brown just trying to stay in it. We're back with a new set. Score has been reset to 0. Seneca up 2-0 in sets. Here we go. As we start set number 3, Seneca to serve. George Brown get the ball over the net. Seneca trying to set something up here. The spike. And it is George Brown point.
Huskies, third straight set now. They've taken the first point, establishing themselves early.
There's the serve from George Brown. They hit the net. They're tied up.
I do wonder what that call is before a serve. The O call. Might be a setup, might be a play that they have.
And that is point for George Brown. They're up 2-1. Trying to set the tone early here, but after 2 very long sets where Seneca took both of them, you gotta tread carefully here. Seneca keep it up. They get it over the net. The block. They keep it in. Over the net. George Brown setting the ball up for the spike. The block, and it's out of bounds. George Brown now up 3-1.
The blocks don't really seem to be working anymore for Seneca, it seems like.
And we keep going to where the outside of the blue line is. And over the net, George Brown setting the ball up. The spike. Seneca get it back over. And they hit the net. That's the second time they've hit the net. It'll be Seneca ball after George Brown hit the net.
Kennedy with the serve for the Sting. There's the serve from Kennedy.
And that went out of bounds.
Huskies regain their 2-point lead as a result of that error.
George Brown setting the ball up, but it goes out of bounds. That is another point for George Brown. George Brown up by 3. Try to extend this game a bit longer. The spike. George Brown setting it up, and it is another point for George Brown. They're up 6-2.
Jason Bernal there. Ball landed, I believe, from my vantage point, just in front of him as he was trying to relay that ball back to his teammates.
And here comes serve from George Brown. Seneca setting the ball up. Oh! Wow. George Brown's all over the ball this set. They're up 7-2.
Huskies gaining, it seems like, a lot more of a stranglehold at the beginning of the set. Different, a little bit different from what we've seen in the past 2 sets.
Still very early. And that is inbounds. That point goes to Seneca. They're back on. It's 7-3.
Seneca with the ball to serve.
George Brown setting it up. Nice block by Seneca. Another block by Seneca, but it goes out of bounds. George Brown gets the point. Ball went out of bounds. 8-3. George Brown been all over the place. They've controlled pretty much this whole
A nice
set.
tip there in front.
But that's the point there from Seneca. Here we go.
Blakeston with the serve
Went
for
over
Seneca.
the net. Serve the block, and
Here they go.
George Brown setting it up. And George Brown get the ball back. Serve, and they get the point. It deflected off. It deflected off of a George Brown player after the spike and went out. Here comes the serve from Seneca.
Blakeston with the ball.
Over the net and out of bounds. Seneca making a comeback. It's then went from 8-3 to 8-6 all of a sudden.
And a perfect serve there by Sam Blakeston. The ball placement was phenomenal. Seems like he's going on a tear here. They're going to ride the hot hand with Blakeston.
I wouldn't blame them. Uh-oh. Oh, what a play by Seneca. Fake spike, knock the ball off the George Brown player out of bounds. They're only down by one. And it's back to a close game.
6'5" in the middle. Buffy Congolo making them pay.
There you go. George Brown setting it up, trying to begin the lead. Uh-oh.
Oh,
And the ball
It's out of
is out of
bounds.
bounds. Tie game.
tied just like that. Wow. Unbelievable.
Seneca were down 8-3, and they've tied it at 8 apiece. They want to win this game. And they are trash-talking the other team.
I don't blame them. All the mental games here.
Goes over the net. Seneca setting the ball up. The spike. George Brown get it back. They try for the spike. And it went out of bounds. Seneca takes the lead.
Unbelievable. I mean, I don't think we've seen a bigger swing of momentum in this match until here.
Yeah, George Brown looked like they would carry this one all the way, but Seneca come all the way back. They're trying to end this game.
This is depleting for George Brown. They're down 2 sets.
Uh-oh, that one went into the ceiling, I think.
Oh, my. They're
George
losing
Brown,
control, the Huskies.
I don't know what George Brown are doing right now. They're down 2. Seneca sideline going crazy right now.
And it's Sam Blakeston again who's going to serve for the Sting.
Oh, but that one went out of bounds. Huskies are back on the board.
Oh, boy. Back on the board, come to within 1. See if the Huskies can regain their energy. Up by 5, and Seneca climbed all the way back to tie it, then take the lead.
And here's the serve. And it hits the ceiling. We are tied.
Seems like that ceiling just isn't high enough for either of these teams right now.
It is, I'd say for volleyball standards, a pretty low ceiling.
You certainly wish this was an outdoor beach match.
Certainly hits the scaffolding a lot. Here comes the serve from George Brown. It goes out of bounds. Seneca take the lead back.
11-10.
Wow.
We thought we were going to see a set where it was completely lopsided, but thanks to a comeback from Seneca, we're back to how it always was.
Here's Buffy Congolo with the serve, the really strong arm. And he does it again.
Wow.
He does it again.
They could not contain that. That was unbelievable. What an ace there by Congolo.
Right off the George Brown player and off the wall. And Seneca regained their 2-point lead. And here comes Congolo again. Trying to get that strong hand working some more.
There it is.
And he sent that one to the other backstop. And that is a point for George Brown.
Strong hand, a little too strong of a hand that time around.
That is the one, I would say the one weakness about having a strong hand is sometimes it can be too strong in a sport where max strength is not something that goes in your favor.
It can or it can't, realistically.
It's set up.
All depends where you aim.
George Brown set the ball for the spike, and it goes out of bounds.
Did he try to get that with his foot?
I don't know, but it's Seneca ball. I think it touched a George Brown player last. Ben Tiering with...
It was Trent Kadritsky there who had to...
Ben
was
Tiering
running towards the bench trying to get the ball. It looked like he was trying to play it with his foot there.
Ben Tiering with the serve. That almost hits the ceiling. He send it back over.
The ball really has just come in such close contact with the ceiling.
Oh, and now Seneca have their biggest lead of the set. They're up 14-11. And timeout. Timeout called, I think, by George Brown.
They had a bigger lead earlier in the set when they were leading by 5.
And
not set. That was George Brown leading by 5.
George Brown led by 5. They were up 8-3.
This is Seneca's biggest lead of the set, indeed.
Yeah, George Brown was up 8-3. Seneca scored 7 straight to take the lead 10-8. It's been back and forth since, but now it is 14-11 Seneca as they try to close out this game. And the players are back on. Players are back on.
Back on after the short little timeout. Seneca will begin with the ball.
Coach, I think, trying to stall for a little bit of time, but here we go.
Tiering with the serve there for Seneca.
Seneca setting it up.
This game is getting really heated, and from our vantage point, we're near the Seneca bench, and we're just hearing lots of trash talk back and forth.
George Brown with the spike, the block, and they get it. Oh, everything's pulling up Seneca right now.
Oh,
they're excited.
Oh, boy.
They're excited.
I mean, how could you not be excited with that?
They're looking to win this. George Brown.
Tiering again with the ball for Seneca.
Goes over.
Soft touch there on the serve. There's a block.
There's a block, but it goes inbounds. It is George Brown point. 15-12, Seneca is the score.
15-12 indeed. A 3-point lead for Seneca. They still got ways to go to winning this set. 10 points away.
And knock.
Off the top of the netting there.
And it was blocked by George Brown, but they go for it again, and it hits the ceiling. That is 16 for Seneca.
Once again, the ceiling coming up big for Seneca. That might even the player of the game.
The ceiling or the net? I mean, the net hasn't been as prominent as of late, but it was a lot earlier.
The net, you do bring up a good point there. I do think the net was kind of, they've been good for both teams, the net's been good for both teams in this game.
You know, it's been a grind up. George Brown just got a point.
All right, there is a point for your Huskies.
George Brown will serve it. And it is going to be Katrinsky.
The serve. Seneca setting it up the block, and it's a point for Seneca as it was blocked in George Brown's zone out of bounds.
4-point lead. Seneca now seeming like they're cementing themselves ahead, making sure they stay in a head position over George Brown.
Seneca players really happy right now. They're up 4. They're 8 away from winning the game, the whole game.
Well, they're riding on that confidence boost.
Oh, what a block! Sam Blakeston gets up, gets the ball down, and it's 18-13 Seneca. The complete opposite of earlier in the set when it was 8-3 George Brown.
And that might just be it right there. That might just be the play that Seneca will ride on for the rest of this game. If they're going to take this set, that might even just be it right there. A huge play.
George Brown taking another timeout. It's been a very entertaining game. And the players are taking the field, in the court. I guess volleyball can be played on a field or a court, but this is a basketball court we are playing on.
Or a sandy beach, which I really wish I was at right now. It's a cold one in Toronto tonight.
Oh, and a block from Seneca. They're up by 6.
Another big block.
And yes, I know it is cold outside, but I honestly never liked the beach. I think I prefer it right now.
Jasper Kennedy there with the serve for Seneca.
Oh, and George Brown hits the net.
Wow. Only 5 away now.
I hear the Seneca players are saying that the net is too high.
I mean, I think both teams would argue that. I mean, we've seen all throughout the match just the net being too high for both teams.
Anyways, here comes Seneca trying to run away with it.
Yeah, that net does seem too high.
George Brown cannot get it. Gets over, and George Brown recovers.
Whoa.
And they get it.
Oh,
wow.
My goodness.
Amazing
what a recovery.
Amazing recovery by George Brown. Probably would have been demoralizing if they didn't get that. It is 2014.
Well, they got something that they could go off of.
And here
down by 6.
we go. A serve. The spike, the block. Seneca get it back. Get it over. George Brown have it now to Seneca. Back to George Brown. Back to Seneca. The spike. And it is Seneca's point. 21-14 for Seneca.
Sam Blakeston with the spike there. to bring his team to within 4 of completing the sweep and taking the third set.
This was definitely the most interesting set to me because it looked like George Brown were going to go all the way with it, but then Seneca roared back, and they get another one, and guess who it is? It's Buffy Congalao. Buffy Congalao, the strong arm, does it again. 3 more points for Seneca, and they win the game.
We're not sure if our microphones are picking up what is said between the benches, but
I hope not.
we're not too sure, but if you can, you could just feel how intense this game is.
The block out of bounds.
Oh, boy.
2 points away now are Seneca from winning the game. The sideline's getting hype.
Logan Vorster for Seneca.
Here we go. Spike the block. They keep it in. Seneca setting it up. The spike. George Brown now with it.
This is crucial.
And
oh my!
And they get it. And they get it. 23-15. Spike, and there's one more.
Congalao!
The big arm, the strong arm. And Seneca are 1 away from winning the game and taking their 11th win of the season.
It could come down to just one serve right here, folks.
And here we go.
Blakeston with the serve.
George Brown with the ball. They get it. And George Brown get it. They're not out just yet. They're not out just yet.
They're showing some fight. As they've been all match, they're showing some fight.
And here we go. George Brown with the serve. It's Joseph Lee trying to keep his team in it. And he hits the net, and that's game.
That'll complete the sweep. Seneca taking it 3-0 in sets. They take the third set 25-16.
And between both the men's and women's teams, that'll be a 6-0 sweep by the Seneca Sting. They
Dominant
really
performances from both programs, the men and women, on the part of Seneca, but this match most certainly, definitely more back and forth. More evenly matched, I'd say.
And the teams will exchange handshakes here as the game ends. Seneca now improved to 11-1 on the year, while George Brown men's are now 7-5 after that loss.
They're still able to keep it to just 1 loss on the season for Seneca.
As they
very dominant performance.
Dominant. They will probably be celebrating out in the locker room. The sideline was getting excited. The players are getting excited. And here they come around.
There we go. And that's going to do it for the stream. Once again, I'm Adrian Barbez alongside Simon Hirschberg. We hope you enjoyed this matchup between the Sarnia Sting and the George Brown Huskies. We'll catch you all next time